Well, with the Olympic Games now over in Tokyo, the focus is, of course, turning to the Paralympics, and now new research is shedding light on the discrimination people with a disability face. A third of Australians know someone who's been discriminated against because of a disability, and almost half of the people surveyed by Developing Australian Communities think the biggest challenge facing the disability community is discrimination. Joining me now is the co-founder of Developing Australian Communities, River Knight. River, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Tell us about Developing Australian Communities. Who are you?
So we're a national organisation. What we do is, apart from our big expos where we have big spaces twice the size of the other expos to bring people and service providers together, we also do work in that professional body space to try and create a little bit of a movement and a voice for the disability sector from service providers and people with a disability to just really tackle some of those big issues that impact, I guess, the whole sector.
Okay, and discrimination clearly one of them. How did you conduct this research?
So we did a preliminary research for a few thousand Australians nationally to look at some of the key topics and key issues for Australians just before we launched our huge national survey, which is currently running. And we just found that those levels of discrimination were still, not at a level that we're comfortable with, and shows that there's still a lot of work to do.
So when we talk about discrimination, what do you mean by that? How do you define it? Because it can come in different forms, can't it?
It can. So what we do is just simplify it down to whether the person having a disability has been the reason why someone has responded to them or treated them in a negative way.
You've also, just looking at your research, I understand you've done a breakdown in terms of where people have seen higher levels of discrimination in major cities. Tell us about that.
One of the things we've found, which is kind of interesting, is it's mostly each state has been fairly similar, but the higher rates of reporting from our respondents saying, yes, I have experienced discrimination in the workplace or overall or in a public place, the higher rates where we saw some, some disappointing statistics were in the ACT, and Queensland was around 34%, Victoria was around 30%, New South Wales was about 32% of respondents was, reporting discrimination or examples of discrimination in general overall.
Is anything changing though? I mean, obviously, as you say, you're still concerned about those numbers, but do you think that the situation's improved at all, let's say, over the last 10 years or in the time that the decades that you've worked in the disability sector?
I believe there's a greater amount of education, so people in the community starting to get more of an understanding. Because of the statistics around disability, it shows that almost everyone is going to be connected in some way to a person that's experiencing disability, and more than half of people over 65 are living with a disability. So I guess the worst statistic that we found was that half of the people that we surveyed said that they had used what they call an offensive term to describe someone with a disability as well. And it sort of highlights that it is still part of that culture, and it's something that we need to address, especially in this age of politically correctness. It's still a disappointing statistic that we're finding, and we need media as well as all of those other TV and outlets to come on board to start reframing how we describe valued members of the community, so we don't devalue them or create misunderstanding.
And hopefully an event like the Paralympics will help to change the sentiment as well. River, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much.
That's River Knight there, the co-founder of Developing Australian Communities.